So my first comment as an economist answers the question, is this a feasible way of going about the problem? There the answer is an unqualified yes, of course. Is this doable? Yes. Would it solve the problem? Absolutely. Let's take a look. One of the questions raised about it is, oh my goodness, this is going to impact the economy because money that is now in the hands of stockbrokers and bankers and all of the people who speculate on Wall Street, they won't have this money. Yes, that's true. They won't. But on the other hand, 50 to 100 million Americans who have no longer a student debt problem will be able to use the money they used to pay in their regular monthly payments on student debt to buy goods and services. So the loss to one part of the economy is offset by the gain to another part. This is simple economics and ought not to be forgotten. Here's another way of saying the same thing. You're taking away money from the top, so it doesn't trickle down. But you're giving an economic boost to the average American who has a student debt. And that's money going to be spent by that person no longer on paying that debt, but on buying goods and services. That's money you might call trickling up. And the trickle up offsets the trickle down. So if you want to argue about the student debt, let's be honest. It is a program, not surprisingly coming from a socialist like Bernie Sanders, that's good for the average American, the vast majority, who either have student debt or face the burden of student debt if they want to help their kids get a college education. It helps them at the price of the 1% or the 5% at the top. One side benefits, the other side loses some. That just corrects what's been going on the last 40 years where the reverse has gone on. Or, to take a more recent example, the tax cut back in December of 2017 that enormously boosted the top, arguing that it would trickle down, which it didn't, rather than help the bottom, which is why Bernie and the others supporting his bill say, we bailed out, the people did, Wall Street back in 2008, 9, and 10. It's time for Wall Street to bail out the American student. So is it economically feasible? Sure it is. But here's something to think about, because there are questions. First, what's the economics here? It's simple. You don't pay enough in America to the average family to pay for their college education for their kids. That's the problem. At the same time that you don't give people enough income, you charge more for education than they can afford, so they end up having to borrow if they're going to get the education. The solution to the problem is not to create these conditions. Even if you forgive the existing date, you're not changing the conditions, which is why many countries, Germany, France, Italy, Finland, many countries in Europe, charge next to nothing for higher education. I'm talking $200 or $300 a semester covers it. There is a political problem here. There's also the question of other debts. We don't pay people enough to cover the cost of their home, their car. That's why they go into debt for those things. You want to really deal with this problem, you've got to change who gets paid what and what costs what, or else the debt is always going to come. And you're going to have those angry people with home debt and car debt and credit card debt asking, why help the students and not me? Good for the students, but I want my debts relieved too. And the same economics would apply. Look, it's a fundamental system that has to change. These are systemic problems. Those that led to slavery, and those within capitalism that lead to unbearable and unsustainable debt. The system is the problem, and system change is the answer.